Welcome back to another episode of the Shared Voices podcast, brought to you by 1042 Project. And we're still at the Academy. If you got to hear the last episode, we came out to the Academy. They ended up finding us. We tried to hide from it. No, we came out here and they allowed us in, and we sat down and we had a real conversation with the director and with Christy and Chaplain Al Perez, and we had a real conversation, and I think it was pretty powerful. I appreciate them allowing me to come in and ask my stupid questions. But now we have a special guest that I want to talk to, because Jack, number one, thank you for being here.
Yep.
You know the mission of our organization. You know what we do. Generally, the top 1 to 2 things when a first responder reaches out in crisis, money's wrapped in either the first or the second. Yeah. So many of our first responders, when we struggle with mental health or we come into the line of work, we may not be used to having this kind of money, even though it's not a lot. And we kind of screwed up in a hurry. I'm just going to be honest. And when you're supposed to be the pillar of the community, I know for me, I struggled with it. I tried to treat my mental health by spending money, by buying things like boats and campers. And it led to a very dark time in me and my ex-wife's life that led towards a lot of financial issues, a lot of marriage issues, clear down to our home being foreclosed on. And I know it's a hard subject to talk about, but I know there's a lot of you listeners that are kind of going through that, and it can be tough because we're supposed to have all of our stuff put together, is what the world says. We're supposed to be above the standards of everybody else, but we're just people. Yeah. We're just people. And Jack, thank you for being on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why the heck you even care. Why do you care about what these first responders and their finances?
Well, for one, so my name's Jack Heuton. I'm the finance manager or financial officer here at the Academy. I care about first responders because I feel that sometimes they're not backed, or they don't. People don't appreciate what they do on a daily basis, and there are times where they do things that are nothing short of miraculous. And so I do what I can to basically help anybody in general, but I do have a passion for first responders, military members. I have first responders, officers, and military members in my family. So, that hits home for me.
From day one when I met you, Al introduced me to you. I knew right away the kind of heart you had. Like it's just who you are. You shine it from you. You're a very loving, caring person, very welcoming. And I've loved from day one when we first talked, we started talking about the money issues and some of the struggles that I see in the first responders reaching out. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, is because money is hard to talk about, right? Let's be real. It's something we don't a lot of times want to share with people. Most of us aren't honest, about it. And we try to cover it up and make ourselves look better than what we are, because that's the next Facebook post you want to make, right? Is show that one with your new boat so you can show your buddy that and it's just constant keeping up with the Joneses, what they used to call it, Al. I don't know if the Joneses are still around, but we're trying to keep up with them apparently. And Al, real quick, I'm glad you're on here because you get to see it too, my friend. You get to see it personally, and you get to see it when they first get to the Academy. And I think that's what's important with both of you. You get to these recruits when they get here. Some of them have no financial understanding, and some they're set in their own ways, and you ain't going to tell them anything, and that's fine. But you two come alongside them and you address it. You talk about that money side because it can be hard. And I've seen careers end. It's pretty ugly. And I love that Jack's willing to sit down, Al's willing to sit down, and we're going to address this issue. So we're going to dive right in. You ready, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, bro. One-on-one. Let's go.
All right.
All right. So how does finances impact the mental health in your relationships? I see it all the time, but let's break it down and unpack some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So people under financial strain are more likely, or actually 2.5 times more likely, to experience anxiety and depression, which really flows into poor sleep quality and also creates high blood pressure, cardiovascular issues. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play with finances and fretting about your finances, constant anxiety and what that does to your body. But also mentally, it goes into low self-esteem, sense of self-worth, which kind of leads into depression. You have your feelings of shame, failure, hopelessness, even down sometimes to suicidal thoughts. Yeah. There's a reason they say during the holidays, suicide is more prevalent. Some of that, comes down to, depression, and also plays into financial issues during those times. There's a lot of pressure financial pressure during holidays, especially around Christmas and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it really does play have a big impact in your mental health and the relationships that you have, because when this creeps into your relationships, when you're experiencing a lot of financial issues, you have social withdrawal. It can be a strain on your intimacy, which can cause emotional distance between your partner. And then let's say you start going out and gambling, or you're hiding debt from your partner, which I've seen, amongst friends and stuff. And you start lying about purchases you make, and that causes a major breach in your marriage. So there's that erosion of trust in your marriage. And then the marital conflict, where you're arguing, it leads to, money is the major leading cause of arguments, divorce, separation amongst couples. A lot of people say or try to act like money doesn't affect them or money isn't a thing, and it really is.
Yeah.
I feel that it affects people more than they realize.
Yep.
And they might be mad about something. They might be fretting about their financial issues that they're having, and then they take it out on their partner. And then later on, you don't reflect back and think, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it's because you've been fretting about finances this whole time.
Yeah. So other than that, there's no reason to talk about finances. No issues are wrapped around it, and
Yeah, right.
But no, it's one of the key things, because when we talk about our hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when it comes to, getting better, getting healing, there's certain things we have to have before we can kind of focus on that, right? We need to have our finances in a safe place where we feel like, okay, we're safe. We have a home, we have a car, so these things are taken care of. And then if those needs are not taken care of, it's hard to build the foundation, to build it up any higher, because you're going to be focused back on this money side.
Yeah.
So the hierarchy of needs, if we can start addressing those, it's a pyramid. If we can start addressing those at the base, and generally a lot of that can be financial, or at the second step can be financial. If we can help at that level, it will allow people to then move on to the next step of love and belonging, where you can focus on self-esteem, you can focus on self-improvement, you can focus on that. But it's pretty hard to do if you don't know if you have a home to sleep in at night, right?
Absolutely.
So, and sometimes people come here and their hierarchy of needs is not being met. They're coming here. I know when I came here 20 years old with a car that Barry ran and a negative account and I walked in here like I had no idea how to run finances, nor did I really care, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of young, dumb, and just didn't think I'd be around anyway. But I love that you're addressing this, because if the whole time they're at the academy, they're focused on their well-being and their income, they're never going to be able to focus on the training. They're not.
Yeah, it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah. So we can address these things. We can bring them up front, and we can start processing them, because you can see Jack just listed what can have, the financial strains, what it does to a relationship and to a person. And so many of us first responders, Jack, like myself, the listeners heard me say this before. When I was in my career, things started rolling. I started getting paid, and I started getting exposed to trauma. I started buying things, and at first it was kind of fun because I had a little bit of money to do it.
Right.
And then I got a house and other things, so I was taking care of my hierarchy of needs, but at the same time I was jumping over those and going after my wants, the things I wanted now. And it led to electricity being turned off from time to time. It led to all sorts of, we were in major credit card debt, major debt on every level you could be. And I just kept digging us deeper with my mental health. Well, I got to have that truck. I got to have that camper. I got to have that four-wheeler. I got to have that boat, because that's what's going to help me to be able to make it another day or be able to survive, is I need these mental health breaks. But Jack, every department has these boards inside their police departments where you can sign up for overtime. So many of us are working our 40-hour weeks and then some, and then we're working all this overtime where we're bringing in more money, and now we have bills a mile high, and our mental health is still struggling, and it can get ugly and out of control in a hurry.
Well, unfortunately, what you see a lot of times with impulse buying, because when you buy something, it's just like when you eat something, you get that dopamine hit. It makes you feel good, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're struggling already financially, or you already have a low self-esteem and buying things, a lot of people try to self-cope with, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. It makes me feel good in that moment,
Yep.
and then you have that buyer's remorse afterwards. But you can very quickly have debt get away from you, and then like you said, you have this overtime you can sign up for to help pay for all those debts that you acquire. But a lot of times after you pay them off, you just end up pulling out another debt.
Yeah.
I can now afford this. Let me buy this. And, you want to buy all these toys so that way when you're with your family, you can have fun. So you get the speedboat, you get the jet skis, right? Because you've never seen a sad person on a jet ski before,
No,
right?
never.
So, but the problem is you have to work all this overtime. So when are you going to have the time to actually be on the boat or the jet ski?
Yep.
I can tell you, your family would much rather see you more often than have a boat or a jet ski that's not being used because you're not around to use it.
Thank you for saying that, because that's true. So many of us are walking away from our families and our kids to go work a football game and to work a Valley football game and to stand there for 4 hours on a Friday night while your family's at home. What should have been your night off is now you signed up and now you're out there. And I know I'm saying this because I've been there. We always say our families are number one priorities. We say our kids are number one priorities as we're walking out the door to go do that stuff.
Right.
And our actions speak louder than our words. And I know because I have 3 kids, I have 5 now, but 3 when I was going through my mental health stuff, and we can put a lot of weight on our kids.
Well, and I've heard, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said the most crucial time for you to be around for your kids is that age between, like 1 and 4, 1 and 5. And you only get that time once.
Yeah.
The time that you see your kids the most, you're going to know them the most in their adult life. The time that you have with them when they're young and impressionable is very short.
Yes.
So to miss out on all those moments, is really a tragedy.
Yeah, and I'm still repairing that. I'm just going to be honest. Like, my kids and I have a great relationship, but I know as a dad I let them down in those areas. And the best thing I can do is just continue to improve and show them. But we cause hurt. We cause a lot more hurt to our family than we realize when it comes to this overtime stuff.
Yeah.
I've said this before on other podcasts, and I'm sure maybe the Academy wouldn't agree with me, but I would like to get it down to where first responders are working 4-day work weeks. I think if anybody in the world who needs to be working a lesser schedule, I would love for those get paid the same, obviously.
Right.
But instead of working an 80-hour work week, they're working 70 hours. Maybe that other 10 hours, consider that their health and wellness time.
Right.
But we need these breaks because, man, we get exposed to trauma, and then we come home, we got to deal with our family, and a lot of times that's trauma and money, and then we go back to work, and it's a cycle that sucks, Jack, that can be hard to get out of.
Well, yeah. I mean, and any person usually when they get off work, they need that little bit of downtime to reset. And I can only imagine as a first responder, the amount of things, the things that you see that you'll never forget, and when you're constantly on the go, you don't get any time to process that.
Yeah.
And, that definitely would play a role.
Yeah. So to have a healthy financial life, it's not going to happen by accident. It's not. We have to be intentional.
Yep.
So let's get down to some intentionality here. And I want to talk about, we talked about some of the vices, but I want to talk to you about some more. Gambling is legal in Iowa now. It seems like first responders were very much adrenaline driven and dopamine when you're hitting those little betting apps. And it sounds like a lot of these gambling apps are causing a lot of issues for people. Why do so many of us run to those high adrenaline type financial things, the things that really we should be holding most dearly? We run to those. Like, why are we doing that? Why are we running to gambling and stuff like that?
Yeah, so first responders do struggle, and they have a high proclivity to gambling, basically because, and we talked about this a little bit, but their exposure, the severity of the exposure and how often they're exposed to these traumatic events are at a frequency far beyond what the general public would see. So, which results in the PTSD, which you guys are going to understand a lot more than I will about that, and can talk to it more about than me. But when you have PTSD, you have this need for this release, which we talked about those impulsive financial decisions. I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. It makes me feel good.
Dopamine.
Exactly. So you have those impulse control issues, but also you have avoidance and numbing is where you're going to see the drinking.
Yeah.
You're trying to self-medicate this emotional pain and trauma. So you might go drink or you might go gambling. You know, you go to a casino, you see these machines and they have all these lights flashing and the sounds. And I mean, it draws you in. There's a reason for that,
Yeah.
you know. Just like a kid on an iPad, it's just constant dopamine to your brain, right? So it's addictive. And then because of the stigma, and most men anyway don't talk about their issues, but then you have these emotional issues, and there's this stigma that I think, like you said, you have to be this strong personality. You can't go seek help because you're the person everyone runs to for help.
That's the stigma.
Yeah, so you turn away from the psychological or even financial counseling. And then when you turn away from that, then you embrace these bad coping mechanisms, basically.
And when you're struggling with your mental health, I know this from experience, you can justify anything to yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be open and raw, like there was times where my family didn't have the money to keep the light bill on, but I would keep a stash so I could have vodka. You know, like we're making some really bad decisions at this point, right? Like, and that's where I was. And a lot of not a lot, but I don't want to categorize everybody, but some of the first responders we deal with is kind of the same thing. They're kind of dealing with that as well.
When somebody, you know, let's say somebody approaches you with the decision you made, you know, most people are going to be quick to get on the defensive and justify why they did what they did. You know, it's hard to be to have some reflection and some, you know, some self-judgment there to really stop and think, hey, you know, what I'm doing, because what you're doing in the time feels good. It makes you feel good to spend money or go gamble or this or that. And it's facing that and saying, okay, well, if I stop, then I'm really going to have to face the problem.
Yeah.
And that's where it's hard to do.
Yeah, because it's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because there's inherent like guilt and shame that comes along with it.
Yep.
Well, it shouldn't, but there is, and it's hard to break through that. I mean, that was the biggest thing to me was my ego. I wasn't going to ask anybody for help. You know, like it gets ugly in a hurry. We've got so many questions and we're running out of time, Al. Golly. A good thing we're going to have Jack back here, though, guys, seriously, because it's one of the main things you guys reach out about. And for some of us, I just want to address this real quick. For some of us that are really bad, that can be in a really bad mental health place like I was in the past, it can be hard to think about planning for the future because you don't feel like you're going to be part of the future. I know for me, I didn't want to plan for the future because I planned on dying before that. And it's a very sick mindset, but that's where I was, and there's some other people that's kind of where you are. But I would just ask you, as we talk about this, when it comes to financial planning and getting yourself set up right or getting out of a hole of your debt, getting help with that and getting through that with somebody, it can do two things. It can either draw your marriage closer or it can push it apart. But if you allow your finances for you and your spouse to be able to talk about your finances openly, and sometimes that means you're going to have to have some uncomfortable conversations, but getting on the same page with each other. And honestly, for the ones that are really struggling bad, you know who you are. I know you don't care about, you may not be around in the future, but let's think about our families. And I think what Jack, a lot of stuff he talks about with financial wealth and this type of stuff, even if you may not feel like it's for you, and I know that sounds sick, but let's think about our families here moving forward because we do care about them. I know you all care about your families. And sometimes I know for me, getting help for myself was no thanks, but I would get help if it meant it was helping my family. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we don't want to do it for ourselves. But let's shift to now. Let's shift to having a healthy financial relation. You know, a healthy career.
Yeah.
Coming into it, what do you guys talk financially about in your classes here at the academy that for your recruits? What are you equipping them with? What type of advice? And you don't have to go into the whole thing, but like, if you had to wrap this financial class up, right? It's a financial class. Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of it?
So the purpose that, or my purpose, to give them the tips that they need to get their financial house in order. Like you said, it doesn't happen by accident. It has to be intentional. And I think in the back of people's minds when they're struggling financially, they know they are. They're just not ready to face it yet. And it's really, so what I cover is a three-prong
approach.
Yes, thank you. A three-prong approach of, one, understanding your credit score. Why is your credit score the way it is? Know how to pull your credit score, and also how to maintain a good credit score. The next one is going to be debt control.
Mm-hmm.
And we go over tracking your debts, understanding where your debts are coming from, because a lot of people are saying, "Well, I need to save money." Well, if you don't know what you're spending, how are you going to save it?
Yeah.
You have to know where your money's going. So
I never knew.
Yeah, right. A lot of us don't, or we absolutely tend to ignore it and look the other way. So like I have an app on my phone that connects to my bank account and it categorizes my expenses for me. I can see how much are we eating out, how much are we spending on entertainment, how much are, which gets you to start thinking, well, if I was saving that, what would that in the future be worth, and then so we talk about not debt consolidation, but like debt snowball, getting out of debt, showing also credit card debts. I mean, credit cards it's crazy the amount of consumer debt. There's over $18 trillion in consumer debt, and this is last year's figures. Over $18 trillion in consumer debt, and 1.2 or 1.3 is credit cards.
That's disgusting.
It's crazy. And, 73% of Americans die in debt, which means that gets passed on to your kids, because you have assets when you die, or hopefully you do. But those get caught up in debts and probate. So it's really about getting them to this mindset of buying what you need and not just what you want, being purposeful with your money, and then paying down your debts as fast as you can, getting to that debt freedom you want to experience. Because I can tell you, paying something off gives you a lot more joy than buying something new.
Or paying cash up front.
Yeah.
Instead of saving and using the cash up front. Like I know a lot of financial things focus on credit score, but sometimes credit score, it seems like, and I could be wrong, seems like sometimes if you're not using credit, you're not using credit cards, your credit score goes down, and then people are like, well, you need to put more on credit. And that's one way. But there's also something to be said of paying cash for something that's...
I mean, it's okay to have a credit card, but those companies are banking on you not paying your debt off. I mean, that's where they're going to get their money from.
They built a new building just because of me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have to admit, I've thrown quite a bit of money in their building too, right? So, credit cards, you have to be very purposeful with them. They can be good if you use them the right way. If you use a credit card, like for me, I use mine just for gas, because I've had my card stolen, the card information stolen at a pump before. So a credit card is a lot easier. They can cover that cost and delete it off your card, right? I'm not going to use my checking account card at the gas pump, because I've had it happen. And then all of a sudden I see this charge for $800 some odd at PetSmart, and then I'm texting my wife like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm sitting at home. I'm like, "No, you're at PetSmart." And no, this guy scammed my card, took my information, created a new card, and bought a bunch of gift cards from PetSmart, and then he was gone out of the city before they could catch him. So I use my credit card only for gas, and then I make sure I pay it off every 2 weeks, or you can pay it off every month. Yeah. But the whole point is to pay it off before you incur interest. And the credit company's banking on that. You won't do that.
I wonder what percentage of people actually do that. Like,
probably not very many.
Yeah, I mean, because I used a credit card as well. I'm out of money. I don't get paid for another week.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go do all the things I want to do.
The majority,
I'll get caught up later on the bill, and then
the majority of people use it to float, right?
Because we earned it. So don't you know I earned to be able to go buy this, because I've been working long days. Mm-hmm. It's been stressful. Me and my wife have been arguing, so I deserve to go out and spend this money.
Exactly, the justifications, right?
We do it all the time.
Absolutely.
I still catch myself doing it.
And so what people should really move to is, should move to having an emergency fund, right? Mm-hmm. You move to have an emergency fund in your savings account, or a high yield savings account, whatever you want to put in, but it needs to be liquid where you can pull it out. Because what happens is when you have a credit card, it seems like anytime you get money, your car craps out, something happens, right? and then you're swiping your credit card, then it takes forever to pay it off.
Yep.
And you're paying interest on it.
Because something else happens in the meantime. Now you got to. Yep.
Exactly. So if you just have an emergency savings account, that would be my first step would be track your expenses, but start looking into creating an emergency savings account. So that way, when something does happen, there's a lot less arguments, right? I don't have to, let's say something happens and then you have to swipe your credit card and now you have the arguments with your spouse again because you're constantly trying to pay this credit card off. Well, you have an emergency savings account, something happens, there is no arguments.
Yeah.
You just pay it and then you rebolster that emergency savings as time goes on, And then after that, then you want to start looking into, the debt snowball, paying down your debt. You can do debt snowball or debt avalanche. There's two different methods. Debt avalanche is you pay down your highest interest rates first, regardless of how big the loan is.
As opposed to the other way where you start with the smallest.
You start with the smallest. So finance is 20% knowledge and 80% behaviors.
It's not guess?
Sometimes, right?
For me, I just guess.
So it really is behavioral. So the reason the debt snowball works is because as you're paying things off, you start seeing rewards, right? It's all about seeing those rewards. If you do the avalanche method, and let's say you're paying on something for 4 years and it's not paid off yet, I mean, how long are you going to, let's say it's a diet, how long are you going to stick to a diet and see zero results?
Right.
So you start with the debt snowball, and then as you pay something off, it kind of makes you feel good. And then it reels you back in, and then you pay the next thing off. You feel good. It's all about behavior and the psychological aspect of it.
That's how I number one. For one time, it happened several times, but I use a debt consolidation. They helped me kind of settle some stuff. That helped. But I'm losing my train of thought. What were you just saying? This happens all the time. Al, I get tired.
I don't even know anymore.
Oh, well. Anyway, but we're getting ready to close up, and I want to ask you this, and we're going to have you on more.
Yeah.
But I get asked this a lot. Should I have my own account separate from my wife? I hear this all the time. I'm tired of her. I'm tired of her. Oh, wrong button. I'm tired of her complaining all the time. I'm tired of all this. I want to have my own account. It's my job, my money. We'll share the bills. A lot of times I get phone calls where there's arguments going on where she didn't pay her part and he's letting her have it or she's letting him have it. What's your thoughts on this? Because I hear all different ways. My wife and I, we share everything. We don't have anything separate. What's your thought?
My personal thought on it is I would rather have it joint. I feel like when you're married under God, you become one.
Yep.
Right. And that also plays in the finances. I have friends that do their finances separately, and they're constantly arguing with each other because, as you just said, one person's carrying most of the weight and the other person's doing what they want. When you have a joint account, it forces you to work together as you should be doing, and you can hold each other accountable. If I go buy a gun without talking to my wife, she's going to say, hey, you just spent $800. Like, well, you didn't even talk to me first, right? It helps you hold each other accountable. And that's exactly what a married couple should do. You keep each other in the right. You hold each other accountable.
And not to punish each other. It's not that. So many of these money arguments turn into, like playground battles, yelling at each other or like little kids. It gets ugly.
It does. Well, it turns into who are you to question me on this? And when I've been doing this and this and that, and
the walls go up.
Yep, the walls go up, and you should absolutely be able to ask questions of each other, obviously respectfully. But I feel the joint account helps hold each other accountable, and you should really be on the same page. Like you said, finances result in uncomfortable conversations. They absolutely do. Excuse me. Because a lot of people don't want to talk about finances, not even with their friends, but let alone when you have to be accountable and with your spouse. It is uncomfortable conversations, but they're good conversations. Yeah, you might argue, but at the end of it, at least you're both on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's the important part is being on the same page. Even talking about your goals together. Yeah. How often do you sit down and ask your wife or your husband, like, hey, what are your goals? I mean, are you wanting to travel? Are you wanting to be debt free? Or you want, and just discuss those things. And it's funny because it's all about communication and people don't communicate.
Especially about money, because it can be uncomfortable. But you want to know what's more uncomfortable? When you don't talk about it, and the lights are being turned off, the bills are coming in, and the sheriff's at your door. That's uncomfortable. So let's have these uncomfortable conversations with our spouses now, because it's a lot better having them on the other end. I promise you that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what about here? I hear this, and then we'll close out. And give me a good answer on this one, because I hear this all the time. I sign up for the overtime. I work it. That's my money. It goes into my separate account. She doesn't get any of my overtime money because that's mine. Yeah. So now you've left your family to go work the overtime.
Yeah. I would disagree with that viewpoint as well. Because again, you're married and you have kids, and you got to put your spouse and your kids first, and they should always come first. And being on the same page, that's why the joint account helps. And then my first mindset, if I had overtime money coming in, I'd be saying, what debts can I pay off to free up cash flow?
Yeah.
And then when I free up cash flow, now I have money to invest in the market. That's something we didn't have time to get into. That's another part of the prong that I talk about with recruits, and starting retirement early, because the more time you have for your money to compound on top of itself and grow is the more that you're going to see in your account, and you're more financially free.
Let's really dive into that next time.
Absolutely.
I get into a playbook of how to do it, a safe way to do it, because everybody hears different opinions from every different level.
I encourage them to, in the class, to reach out to their departments, whether it's HR or their supervisor, but you should know what your pension looks like. You should know what your pre-retirement income that you need, like when you retire, what's your financial independence that you need to have. What percentage are you going to have? When are you going to draw Social Security? How much income do you need to supplement to live beyond? Because you have inflationary impacts after you retire. Is your money going to be worth as much 20 years from now? Are you going to have to go get a part-time job when you're 85? Like, that's the stuff people need to really think about. And unfortunately, what you see in most people, pretty much all people, is they don't think about retirement until they're 40. Mm-hmm. And you've already lost 20 years of growth. You should be starting retirement the moment you get a job.
Yeah.
So,
Al, can I get just a couple words out of you real quick before we close? What's the Bible say about money? A lot of people think Bible, we don't talk about it. What's the Bible say about money? Because it's not evil.
No. But when you and I think about this, because we've worked in a small group with some of our recruits, and when the director was talking about those nights out where they were able to go, and I think this is where we started to discover we need to start touching this. We were having some of our recruits go gamble in Prairie Meadows, and if you recall, I had some that like, hey, I lost $2,000 last night. Get that back in my account, and so we've dealt with this firsthand. And usually this thing, Daniel, when we think about struggle or we think about this, we never think about this aspect. Yeah, we know money is important. Jesus talked a lot about money and how we steward it, but we really didn't think of in terms of law enforcement as a modality of like, okay, let's talk about this, because we look at alcohol, some things we've talked about, inappropriate relationships on the job, and we put them in these tiers. This is probably about number 3, but it's the hidden one. This is the one like, okay. And so, but look, like what you said, it's heavy. And I think Jack also, and this may be something you want to do in the future, is Jack teaches that here. And it's free to our recruits to choose to do it. This may be something we might want our regional partners to the ministry, like, hey, can I come in on that and listen in?
And I'd like to have Jack come and speak to some of our events and stuff, because it's a huge thing, the money. And when God talks about money in the Bible, he's talking about the heart of people and what they're doing with the money. Money's not evil. When used properly, money is good. And as Christians, we also have to, we need to add into our budget. In my opinion, is a tithe. I think it's important. I think when we, for our faith listeners, I think it's important when we give God the first of what we make. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but He provides a way. And it's not about money. God doesn't need your money. It's about your heart. And that's what I've learned through it all. It's about the heart. Your heart is where your money's going to follow where your heart is, right? Yeah. And that's why so much in our organization, we focus on the heart. But thank you guys. This was fun. Can we do it again?
Absolutely.
Sometime?
Yeah. All right. We can do a part 2.
All right. And I'm going to say thank you to producer Corey over here. We got Corey sitting with us. If you've been in the academy, you know Corey. We got producer Corey over here. He's learning the switches. So thank you, Corey. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. God bless.
All right. Thanks.